I slammed the balcony door behind me, the metal latches clang ricocheting against Denver's dawn hush. Below, Colfax Avenue stirred to life, the low drone of traffic swelling beneath the pale sky. I cradled my travel mug, its lid loosened just enough for the metallic tang of over-roasted espresso to brush my tongue. My phone buzzed against the wrought iron railing. An unknown Denver number. My pulse jolted. I set the mug down, its porcelain clattering softly on the tile, and fished the device from my pocket. One line of text glowed against the screen, "You need to see this." Beneath it, a photo thumbnail beckoned. I tapped. The world contracted to that single frame. Amanda, her dark curls caught in the alley's amber spotlight, leaned into Tom, the theater's director, his fingers threading through hers on the neck of his guitar. Their foreheads pressed together in a silent confession. At their feet perched two chipped mugs, one still steaming, and a small ashtray heavy with gray cigarette ash. Smoke curled toward the rafters of the backstage corridor, a ghost of betrayal in pixel form. My stomach lurched, and I tasted bitterness sharper than any coffee could deliver. She said rehearsals ended at 9, I thought, vision narrowing to the crooked smile on Amanda's face. She promised she'd be home helping our daughter pick out ballet shoes. Instead, she was sharing stolen chords beneath the theater's fading marquee. I closed my eyes, pressing my forehead against the cool brick wall. The hum of the city felt distant now, like a record played underwater. My fingers tightened around the brass keychain in my pocket, an antique wedding clock, its hands forever paused at our first dance. I had carried it with me this morning for good luck. Now it weighed like lead. I inhaled, drawing in the crisp mountain air tinged with juniper and last night's fire pit smoke. Exhale. Steady. I opened my eyes and studied every detail of the image, Tom's tailored blazer catching the light, Amanda's cardigan flecked with paint from our weekend tiling project, the way her hand trembled as it brushed his guitar strings. I zoomed in until the grain dissolved, their passion lay bare in every pixel. My thumb hovered over the back button. I forced myself to lean into the railing and breathe through the tremor. Then I tapped save and felt the image deposit itself into my gallery, ammunition in a war I'd never wanted to fight. I straightened, retrieving the travel mug. The coffee had gone cold and bitter, sludging against the bottom. I dumped it onto the gravel floor, no wasted moments, no opportunity for self-pity. The splash echoed against the high-rise walls. My gaze flicked to the antique clock on the side table, its silver face catching the faint sunrise halo. Our wedding photo stood beside it, now face down at my touch. Promise and proof lay inverted, refusing to lie to me any longer. I retrieved our shared tablet from the wicker chair in the corner. The home screen lit instantly. I tapped the banking app and scrolled for any late-night charges to Encore Cafe, the spot she claimed was just a quiet rehearsals hangout. Then I opened messages, searching for Tom and rehearsal, my pulse sinking to the rapid in and out of data streams as names surfaced. The antique clock's tick-click-click from my pocket marked each heartbeat with unerring precision. This clock measured our life in moments of joy. Now it would mark every step I took to reclaim what she had stolen. I tucked the tablet under my arm, squared my shoulders, and stepped back inside. Denver's morning light brightened the living room, but in that glow I felt no warmth, only the clear, steely line of purpose. No tears. No confrontation, just the calm conviction to gather every fact, preserve every scrap of proof, and let reason, not rage, guide my next move. As I crossed the threshold, the clock's pendulum ticked on in my pocket, and I whispered, "Time to begin." That night, sleep eluded me. I lay beside the quiet tick of the antique wedding clock, its pendulum suspended in my pocket as if waiting for a new directive. In the dark, I reached over to the nightstand, skimming my fingertips across the smooth wood and tracing the silver hands frozen at 7:15, the time Amanda and I had shared our first dance. I closed my eyes and let my mind drift back to the life we'd built, searching for the first tremor that might explain the quake I now felt. It began, I think, on our first date at Union Station's food hall. The smell of roasting peanuts mingled with spicy Korean barbecue. She'd laughed at my attempt to navigate the lunchtime crowd. We'd shared a music hall pumpkin ale, elbows brushing as we reached for nachos, and I'd found her voice sweeter than any hymn. By evening's end, she'd accepted my hand, and I'd vowed to learn every line in the song of her smile. Weekends were our workshop. Saturdays meant pancake breakfasts in our sunlit kitchen. She whisked batter into golden peaks, I brewed espresso so dark it left rings on the counter. Our daughter, still clutching her stuffed rabbit, would totter in begging for a bite too big to hold. Amanda'd lift her onto the stool, dusting her hair with flour, and we'd take turns flipping mini pancakes in a game of culinary catch. Those mornings felt as certain as sunrise. Afternoons found us elbow-deep in home improvements. I'd measure and cut plywood for the new shelving, while Amanda applied grout to the subway tile backsplash. Her hands moved with artistic precision, the fine gray powder clinging to her fingertips like proof of her care. We'd pause to admire our work, paint spattered and triumphant, high-fiving beside the half-finished vanity. In the hum of the power drill, I believed we were indestructible. Evenings, after our daughter's bedtime stories, were sanctuary. We cleared the living room, lit beeswax candles on the mantel, and unfolded our yoga mats. I guided her through gentle warrior poses, her body strong, her breath calm. She'd counter with breath-focused flows that steadied my mind. Then, mugs of jasmine tea in hand, we'd collapse side by side, heads tipped together, whispering hopes for future family road trips or a dream of writing a play. In the hush of candlelight, I felt her hand in mine and thought I'd never need anything more. Then, small anomalies arrived like dissonant notes in a perfect chord. I first noticed her phone at odd hours. I'd wake to the bed shaking with a soft buzz, 11:37 p.m. And again at 12:21 a.m. I'd peer over, catch her screen's pale glow. If I asked, she'd murmur, just texting cast members about next week. Her apologetic smile sent me back to sleep, trusting, half asleep. Next came unexplained receipts. One afternoon, I logged into our joint bank app and saw a $14.50 charge at Encore Cafe and Spirits at 9:03 p.m. Amanda never lingered over cocktails after our daughter's bedtime. At dinner, I placed the notification on the table. She reached for it, lips pressed into a small frown. "Oh, Tom's hosting a late rehearsal," she said. I grabbed a hot toddy to keep warm. I let myself believe her. A week later, I noticed a $38.25 mix-and-match order from Stage Props Unlimited at 11:12 p.m. Again, I asked. They needed extra gaffer tape, she explained. I picked it up so they wouldn't delay tomorrow's matinee. I filed that away too, convinced it fit her generous nature. My doubts sharpened during a neighborhood barbecue. I watched Amanda in the yard, her head bent close to Tom's as they struggled over a grill flame. Later, I caught them slipping around the back fence, whispers in the dark. When I cornered her the next day, her eyes filled with false innocence. "We were chasing the smoke out," she said, glancing at the bonfire pit. My gut nodded, but I let it unwritten. The real tipping point came when I found ash on her scarf. She'd hugged me before leaving for rehearsal, her usual lavender perfume lingering on the collar. Beneath it was something smokier, cigar. Pipe? I held the scarf, inhaled, and recoiled from stale tobacco. I asked her directly. She laughed it off. "Someone was testing the smoke machine," she said. "Lots of residue tonight." Driven to know the truth, I borrowed her tablet under the guise of checking our shared calendar. An unfamiliar app icon caught my eye, a discreet messaging client. I opened it to a thread labeled Backstage Beats. My breath caught as I saw messages exchanged in the midnight haze. "Tom, June 3rd, 11:45 p.m. Your voice is a confession I long to hear." "Amanda, I never meant to fall like this." "Tom, June 4th, 12:02 a.m. Meet me by the stage door." "Amanda, I'll be waiting." My chest tightened. I scrolled to the first entry, May 15th, "Thanks for teaching me that new chord." Each line dripped with a passion I'd once thought reserved for me. Hand steady, I screenshot every exchange, then cleared the thread. My pulse slowed as I created a new folder, Evidence, on my desktop and saved each file. Then I printed the messages, the cafe receipts, and photos from the gallery showing Amanda brushing past Tom on the set. I stapled them together. On the kitchen island, I arranged the printouts around our wedding clock, its face down, the promise of forever hidden beneath a ring of proof. Our daughter's bedtime storybooks lay to the side, her bright smile a reminder of what was at stake. Late into the night, I pressed my palm to the clock's brass back, feeling its muted tick against my skin. I opened my notebook, its first page labeled Next Steps, and wrote. 1 Consult Attorney, Denver Family Law. 2. Back up all messages and receipts to encrypted drive. 3. Install discrete home cameras and audio recorder. 4. Meet with financial planner for asset valuation. I closed the notebook, each word a brick in the foundation of my resolve. In the stillness, the clock's tick became a vow. From the ashes of betrayal, I would build a structure of justice, step by measured step. The next morning, I woke before dawn, the brass wedding clock's muted tick echoing in the stillness of our bedroom. As the first pale glow of daylight crept through the curtains, I carried a mug of black coffee to the kitchen and spread out my evidence binder, its tabbed sections bulging with printed photos, receipts, and message screenshots. The steady hum of the coffee maker mingled with my resolve. Grief would not dictate my actions any longer. 1. Retaining legal counsel. By mid-morning, I sat in the glass-fronted lobby of Denver's Bennett and Harper Family Law. Clutching the binder labeled, Privileged, Do Not Distribute, I stepped into attorney Lauren Bennett's office, where shelves of legal tomes stood behind her polished desk. One by one, I laid out the exhibits. The brass wedding clock, nestled in its velvet pouch, Exhibit A, a symbol of time we once shared. Photographs from June 14, 8:22 p.m., backstage at the community theater, Exhibit B, showing Amanda and Tom in an embrace. Rideshare receipts from Encore Cafe at 8:15 and 9:03 p.m., all charged to our joint account, Exhibit C. Screenshots from the Backstage Beats chat thread, late-night messages laden with passion, Exhibit D. Coffee ground and ash samples scraped from Amanda's yoga mat, Exhibit E, physical remnants of her deception. Lauren reviewed each piece in silence, her pen tapping a thoughtful rhythm on her notepad. Finally, she looked up. Your documentation is extraordinarily thorough, she said. Under attorney-client privilege, we'll file for temporary custody, child and spousal support, and a motion to freeze joint assets. We can also pursue a domestic relations order to secure your equity in the condo. She sketched our timeline. 1. Today, finalize the exhibit list and sign the engagement letter. 2. Within 3 days, file emergency motions for custody and financial restraints. 3. Within 7 days, serve Amanda and set a preliminary hearing. With each point Lauren outlined, the chaos in my mind gave way to firm purpose. I signed the retainer, feeling the tremor in my chest solidify into resolve. 2. Assembling my support network that afternoon, I reached out to my brother, Eric, our family's resident tech wizard. Over sandwiches at our favorite Highlands Deli, I slid him a rough sketch of the condo's entryway and living room. I need 2 cameras, I explained, tapping the foyer on the plan. 1 to catch the front door comings and goings, another to monitor the living area. Eric grinned. I've got microcams that stream directly to your phone. I'll drop by tonight with everything we need. Later, I met my oldest friend, Dr. Sofia Ramirez, at the Botanical Garden Cafe. Over chamomile tea, I detailed the behavioral patterns I'd noted, Amanda's sudden nervous laughter, Tom's lingering hand as he adjusted her prop script. Evidence is strongest when it's their own words, Sophia advised. Place a discrete recorder in common spaces, living room, kitchen, where they won't expect privacy. Then, when you confront her, use neutral questions like, what did you discuss at midnight? Their answers will become your most persuasive testimony. Between Eric's technical expertise and Sophia's psychological guidance, my strategy formed a dual-layered net, visual confirmation paired with audio admissions. 3. Preserving and cataloging evidence. That evening, Eric arrived with 2 diminutive, night vision-capable cameras and a small network video recorder. Working side by side, we mounted one camera above the entryway, its lens hidden in a carved wooden corbel, and the other on a high shelf in the living room, disguised among picture frames. He threaded cables through the attic, connected them to the DVR tucked beneath my desk, and ran a test, crisp video with clear timestamps, even under the room's subdued lighting. Next, I placed Sophia's recommended digital audio recorder inside a hollow ceramic vase on the mantel, its microphone directed toward the couch. I whispered a test phrase, recording at 10:02 p.m. and played it back with perfect clarity. Our home had become a silent witness, ready to capture every furtive visit. Back in my study, I turned to the digital realm. I backed up Amanda's phone logs, text archives, call records, and recovered deleted messages onto an encrypted external hard drive. I printed each late-night receipt and chat screenshot on high-quality paper, laminated them for durability, and slid them into clear sleeves. To keep track of everything, I opened my leather-bound journal and created an evidence log. Each entry recorded the date I collected the item, a brief description, and where it was stored, binder, safe, or DVR. No spreadsheets, just neat, handwritten entries that felt more personal yet equally precise. Finally, I stashed the following in the small safe bolted beneath my desk: the brass clock, Exhibit A, the binder of physical evidence, and 2 USB drives loaded with encrypted backups. Each click of the lock was like setting another stone in my fortress of truth. 4. Drafting and notarizing proposals. Monday morning, I met Jenna Martinez, our next-door neighbor and licensed notary, in her sunlit home office. I handed her 2 sealed envelopes prepared by Lauren Bennett. 1 custody and visitation proposal. Joint legal custody for major decisions. Primary physical custody with me, Amanda granted alternate weekends and holidays. Temporary child support per Colorado guidelines. 2 asset division schedule. Condo equity frozen, with Amanda's share held in escrow. Retirement and brokerage accounts partitioned as of the filing date. Personal property, my woodworking tools and the wedding clock to me, Amanda's theater wardrobe to her. Jenna affixed her embossed seal to each page, turning ink into enforceable documents. As I tucked the packages into my portfolio, I felt a quiet authority settle around me. 5. Financial planning and valuation. That afternoon, I met CPA Marcus Nguyen at his Lodo office. I slid the asset division schedule and recent bank statements across his desk. He ran appraisal models. Condo value, current market appraisal and potential refinancing to facilitate a buyout. Retirement funds, tax consequences of segregating 401k and IRA balances. Joint savings, freeze with escrow for childcare and living expenses. Marcus produced a concise report, complete with cash flow projections and tax minimization strategies, and emailed it directly to Lauren. With finances locked down, another pillar of my life stood secure. 6. Preparing for the hearing. By Wednesday, my study had become command central. 2 monitors streamed live camera feeds, a corkboard displayed a timeline of events and indexed exhibits, and the half-assembled music box, a project paused in shock, rested on my workbench. I rehearsed my opening statement aloud. On June 14 at 8:22 p.m., Exhibit B, surveillance footage, records Ms. Gray and Mr. Avery alone in the backstage corridor, contrary to her representation that she was home. Exhibit C, rideshare logs, confirm her departures at 8:15 and 9:03 p.m. Exhibit D, text logs, reveal their intimate exchanges. Exhibit E, audio recording, captures their own admissions. With each iteration, my voice grew steadier. The brass clock in my pocket ticked in time with my resolve, replacing grief's tremor with firm authority. That evening, Lauren emailed the hearing date, July 30 at 9 a.m., and reminded me of the July 23 deadline for final exhibits. I double-checked every binder tab, verified each audio backup, and ticked off every action item from my journal. The chaos of betrayal had been harnessed into disciplined order. In less than a week, I had transformed from shocked husband to strategic advocate for my own justice. Every camera installed, each notarized document, and each financial projection laid a solid foundation for the confrontation to come. The brass wedding clock, once a testament to our shared rhythm, had become the metronome for my calm, systematic reclamation of time, trust, and truth. I arrived at Bennett and Harper's conference room at 9 a.m. sharp. Sunlight slanted through the Venetian blinds, casting neat bars of light across the polished mahogany table. At its center lay 3 objects: the brass wedding clock, Exhibit A, nestled in its velvet pouch, the pristine ashtray, Exhibit B, and our wedding photograph, its frame gleaming. Amanda sat to my right, composed but pale, her attorney poised beside her. Attorney Lauren Bennett opened her binder. "We'll review Exhibits A through D, then discuss settlement terms," she said, clicking the remote. The screen flickered to life with the first slide. Exhibit A appeared, the photograph from June 14, 8:22 p.m., Amanda and Tom pressed close in the dim backstage corridor, their laughter suspended in a stolen embrace. The ashtray beside them held fresh gray residue. Amanda's eyes darted to the image, her lips parted, but she didn't deny a word. Lauren advanced to Exhibit B, the rideshare receipts showing 2 pickups at Encore Cafe, 8:15 p.m. and 9:03 p.m., all billed to their shared account. I slid printed copies across to Amanda. "These confirm your departures," I said, voice level. "You claimed rehearsals ended before 8. Her attorney rifled through the pages, then set them aside. I reached forward, lifted our wedding photo, and placed it before Amanda. This photo, I said softly, was taken on our wedding day, our promise to each other in sunlight. I tapped the frame. That promise was entrusted to you. I moved the photo to her side of the table and nodded to Lauren, who clicked to Exhibit C, the bank statements showing repeated late-night charges at Encore Cafe, all outside of official theater work. You said those were vendor errands, I noted. The dates don't match any scheduled events. Amanda's shoulders trembled. Lauren's next click revealed Exhibit D, the backstage beats, messages, lines like, "Your breath against the script feels like confession," and, "I ache for our hidden chords." Each scroll across the screen felt like a confession carved in light. I inhaled slowly. Then, with deliberate calm, I lifted the wedding clock from its pouch and set it in front of Amanda. "This clock measured every second I trusted you," I said, meeting her gaze. "Today, it marks the time you answer for those betrayals." Lauren slid the settlement agreement across the table: joint legal custody, primary physical custody with me, equitable division of assets, structured visitation. Amanda's hand shook as she reached for the silver pen beside the clock, once used for our mortgage, now for accountability. She exhaled, signed, then looked at me with tear-bright eyes. I placed my signature with measured care. Lauren stamped the documents. The soft thud resonated like finality. I rose, folding the velvet pouch and tucking the clock into my jacket. I offered Amanda a brief nod, acknowledgement, not triumph. Outside, the Denver skyline gleamed, but inside that room, the air held only the steady rhythm of justice meted out. A week after the conference room signing, I sat at our kitchen island reviewing the court's final decree. Its pages confirmed joint legal custody, granted me primary physical custody of our daughter, and laid out a clear visitation schedule for Amanda, every other weekend and alternating major holidays. Our Denver condo remained mine, with her equity held in escrow, retirement and brokerage accounts were split equitably. Child and spousal support would deposit automatically, safeguarding our daughter's needs. I set the decree beside the brass wedding clock, now engraved on its back with "Time Reclaimed," and exhaled a breath I didn't know I was holding. On the mantel, I arranged 3 symbols of my journey: the wedding photograph, again face up, the cleaned ashtray, its residue sealed away, and the metronome, ticking steadily as Exhibit A. Each piece marked a chapter: promise, betrayal, accountability, and together they framed the future I would build. That afternoon, I returned to my workshop for the first time in months. The half-assembled music box I'd abandoned lay on my bench, its mechanism silent. I retrieved the metronome's pendulum and set it gently on the side. With chisels and fine-grained sandpaper, I fashioned the pendulum into a brass clasp for the box's lid. As wood shavings curled at my feet, I carved the inscription, "Moments Mended," into the maple surface. Each chip of wood felt like reclaiming a fragment of my life. When I snapped the latch closed, the metronome's heartbeat lay nestled inside, a reminder that time, once stolen, could be reclaimed. Saturday evening, I hosted a small backyard gathering for my brother, Peter, Dr. Sofia Ramirez, and my father, those steadfast allies who'd guided me through every step. Under string lights, we grilled chicken and laughed over childhood memories and our daughter's latest ballet recital. She darted among us, her laughter bright as any melody. When she presented me with a press theater token she'd found backstage, I invited her to place it inside the music box keepsake alongside the pendulum. "For good moments," she declared, her eyes shining. In that instant, I felt the full arc of our journey, from fractured trust to gentle joy. Sunday dawned golden over the Rocky Mountains. I launched my blog, Steady Beats, with a post titled, "Blueprints for Rebuilding." I outlined the precise steps I'd taken, documenting anomalies, preserving every scrap of evidence, consulting counsel, and transforming betrayal into measured action. I shared the story of the metronome-turned-keepsake box and invited readers to turn their own symbols of hurt into vessels of hope. Within hours, messages poured in: "Your systematic guide saved me. Thank you for showing strength through structure. I'm finding my footing again." A community began to form, for whom resilience meant quiet determination rather than shared despair. That evening, I laced up my running shoes and took my daughter to the Platte River Trail. We jogged beneath the cottonwood canopy, the westering sun dappling the path. I carried the music box in my backpack, its steady ticking felt like a heartbeat in sync with mine. She skipped alongside, asking when we'd see fish beside the water. Soon, I promised, and meant it. Back home, I set the music box, the final decree, and the wedding photograph side by side on my nightstand, 3 markers of promise, justice, and renewal. In their silent company, I felt no trace of bitterness, only the steady pulse of inner peace and the knowledge that, moving forward, each second would be mine to shape. And as the music box's latch clicked softly in the hush of night, I whispered, "This time, we keep the rhythm."